Can often be really useful if you're working with a risk matrix to indicate on the records that belong to the matrix or that the matrix represents which area they are located within. So we can see here that these ones here are located in this area here, these are located in this area here, and so forth. And this little circle indicator is really helpful. However, in this video, we're going to be looking at an alternative. So the alternative we're going to cover is going to be a little picture of a risk matrix. So it's going to have the same color, but it's going to be a visual indicator as to which zone the record actually belongs to. I'm also going to take it one step further and indicate the box it belongs to within the zone, so that you can subtly see where within that risk zone the actual record sits. Hi, this is Jason from Effective Dashboards, helping maintenance and reliability professionals get the most out of Power BI. So welcome back to another video. Okay, so we're going to crack on with this. This video is going to explain how to create the SVG icons, but also a few other bits and pieces that I think are going to be relevant to improving the risk matrix that I created in the previous video. Now, if you're interested in how I created this risk matrix here, and it actually uses the new button filter visual to create this matrix, then check out the video. I'll leave a link below. Now, I'm going to assume that you've watched that video and you understand how that was all set up. Now, one of the key parts of that was setting up this helper table. Okay, so that helper table looked at the severity and likelihood number and assigned a sort to that number. Now, the video that the previous video goes into a lot more detail on how this part's set up, so I'm not going to go into that again here. But one of the three additional fields that I've added to this helper table are for each one of the severity likelihood numbers. So this is this one here, for example, is 5, 5. This is 4, 5, etc., etc. So these are the coordinates, if you like, for each of these boxes within the risk matrix. So for each one of those, I've gone and assigned a color. Okay, now that color relates to, obviously, the background color here. Now I've changed this up from the previous video, which was really more like this one here, which was like a red, amber, green. I've increased the actual number of records for each of these boxes, and I've changed away from this red, amber, green to and added additional risk zones. So instead of 3, there's 4. And I just think that the red shades are a little bit just a little bit better than the red, amber, green. It's kind of green kind of suggests that there's a safe area. Now, if it's an activity you're carrying out and you're carrying out a risk assessment on an activity, then that may well be the case. But we've got a defect here. These are work orders, so it's never really going to be safe to leave it. There might be negligible impact or likelihood, but there's always going to be something here. So that's it. That's the way I've looked at it. Now, the other thing you'll have noticed here is that there are different colours for the fonts, and I'll go into that in a second. Obviously this colour here, if it was black, then there would be practically no contrast, and there's a very little contrast with this darker red as well. These ones were fine actually, so I've made these white. So let's go back and look at this helper table, and we can see that I've added in the colour here for each one of these coordinates within the risk matrix, and I've also mapped them to a zone. Okay, so we can see each one of these is mapped to a different zone. So that's critical risk, that's high risk, moderate risk, etc., etc. And the final thing I've done is this font color here. So that's going to indicate which one of these zones here relates to black or white as being the font color. So we're going to set up this helper table. I've done that, and that's going to be used as a reference for some of the measures that we're going to create as we go through this video. Okay, so let me just talk you through the first measure. This isn't really related to the goal of this video, which is to create this little SVG, but I think it's important that, we just go through this just quickly. So what I've done is I've got this button visual, or button slicer here, which if I click on here is this one here. And it's all been set up, and what I've done is I've created this measure here. Okay, so first of all we select a variable which is the selected value, and for each one of these the selected value is going to be whatever the likelihood severity number is for the particular box. And then we've done a lookup to go and get the font color where the font color where the selected value is equal to the selected or the severity likelihood number that is in the table here this helper table. Okay, so this value here, it's going to go and get this font color here for each one of these different values here. And then we're simply going to take that value, or take that, that measure, and if we go back in here, we're going to go into the callout value, and we're going to go, and if it's set it up for the select, or for the default. Now these are actually the labels, they're not the values, they're the labels here. And we're going to go and use the color here, or use a conditional formatting measure to go and actually drive this color here. Okay, so if it's one of these boxes here or here, it's going to use this conditional formatting, or this measure here, to format it white. And if it's these boxes here, it's going to be black. Okay, so that gives us that contrast here. And you just need to go through each one of these for the default, for the hover, so that we've got the hover here as well, being white and bold. There's that conditional format again. And then the press, and also the selected. So if we do start to select some of these, then it also applies that conditional formatting as well. Okay, so once that's done, that tidies that up. Okay, so next we're going to add in this indicator, and we're going to add some conditional formatting to the font for this indicator here that's going to match the zone that the record belongs to. Now the indicator itself is a calculated column, and all I've done is search for a Unicode character, which is a circle. So here's a website here that's got it, but if you just type in Unicode circle, then there's going to be loads of options here, and you just click on one of these, and all you do is copy and paste it like you would any other character into here, and just surround it by quotes. And we're going to go and take advantage of the color that is in the helper table, this severity likelihood sort table here, to add conditional formatting to this here, because in the previous video it didn't quite work properly, so this is going to basically make amends for that. Okay, so this button slicer here has got the severity likelihood number as from this helper table here, the severity likelihood sort table, as the label here, or there's the value that's been shown here. And the labels are showing a measure that counts the number of work orders that are related to that severity likelihood number in the actual table here. And that's how it all works, but it's in the previous video, links underneath. Now, what we need to do is create a measure that goes and takes that severity likelihood number and finds the associated color for the risk zone. So let's go and we'll do that. Okay, so here's the measure here. Conditional formatting I've prefixed it with, and it's severity likelihood indicator color. So the first thing we're going to do is set up this variable here that goes and gets the post-mitigation risk for this particular record here. Okay, so selected value, work orders, post-mitigation likelihood severity number, and that's what it is here. I've shortened the title here, but that's the number it's getting here, and that refers to where this coordinates in this this matrix here. Then we're going to go and we're going to do a lookup value. So lookup value, the first parameter here is what is the value we're looking up? What value do we want to get from the target table? So we're going to look up the severity likelihood sort, and we're going to look in this column here, this risk zone color. Okay, so if I bring up a little bit of a screenshot of this, so this risk zone color is what we're going to be looking up. And what is it we want, how are we going to find what color we want to take out of that column? Well, first of all, we're going to say which value do we want to search for, and it's going to be the severity likelihood number. So that's going to be that number there. So which value we're going to search to. And that is going to be equal to, so that's that third parameter, the selected severity likelihood number. Okay, so this one here that we've just got. So if this is 43, for example, we're going to go and we're going to get this color here, where this severity likelihood number, which is here, is equal to 43, which is this one here, and that's what we're going to return, this color here, this BA18 1B. Okay, it's going to be color we're going to return. Right, okay, so let's go, and then we just simply go into here. I'll make this a little bit bigger now that we've shown that, and we're going to go into this bit here, and we're going to go to cell elements, select the indicator here, which is the first one anyway, which is selected, and then we're just going to go to font color, and in here we're going to go to here, field value, and we're going to say conditional formatting, and it's going to be this indicator here, and that should work just nicely. So let's go, and we had this one here selected, so let's just deselect that, and here we can see these ones are all formatted. And if we scroll down, yeah, these are formatted as well. Okay, so that's that indicator. So that might be useful. That might be exactly what you need. It never worked in the previous video because I did it incorrectly, but that might be all you need. However, the main idea with this video is to show you how to create a little mini version of this risk matrix, and it's really pretty straightforward. So we're going to use a functionality within Power BI that allows you to embed SVGs as columns or even measures into the visuals. So what I'm going to do first of all is just go and create a new measure, a new calculated column actually, that's going to contain the SVG. Okay, so I'm going to create it in the work orders table. Okay, so this is a measure. It's pretty daunting if you've never worked with SVGs before. Now this video isn't, the purpose of this video isn't to teach you how to use SVGs in Power BI. It's to take advantage of the fact that you can. I've created another video that explains how to set these up and what SVGs are, etc. There's 2 or 3 videos there that's going to basically be a little bit of a fast track into what they're about and how to use them. Now, if you just set this up as a template for your risk matrix, it's going to work perfectly fine. Okay. Now, a couple of things you need to bear in mind is that these variables are embedded. Or this code here is basically the code that determines the picture, the SVG that's going to be displayed on the screen. Okay, so what I've done is I've created code for each of the different risk zones. Okay, so there's an SVG critical risk zone, there's a high risk zone, moderate and low risk, etc., etc. Now, for every one of these, we've basically recreated the matrix, right? And this is what this code here is doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill each of the squares within that matrix, that 5 by 5 matrix, with either the default color, which is going to be like a white color here. So if we look up at the top here, we've got the default color here, which is like a grey color, or the critical risk color, or the high risk color, or the moderate risk color, which are all defined up here. Okay, now these are the colors that we're going to use to basically determine are they going to be reflecting the risk zone color that we're going to use. Now we could do a lookup and get these risk zone colors directly from the table, but I'll just put them in here. I'll just hard code them in here for just now. Okay, so that's pretty much it for each one of these, and then we've got a stroke color here. I've just made that white, and that's basically the color that is in between the matrix. Okay, that's the lines that are between the boxes. And I think that's all that we need to worry about here. Now the actual a priority risk zone, which is obviously pretty important as well, is going to be used when we go down here. Okay, so we've got a switch statement here that says, okay, which priority risk zone does the current record sit in? Okay, and if that is equal to critical risk, high risk, moderate risk, lower risk, or whatever, then we're going to use this switch statement to basically return the related SVG. Okay, so it'll be either a critical one, a high one, a moderate one, or the low one. So what you would need to do is make sure that this measure here is related to the risk zone for your matrix. Okay, now if I go into the helper table, because this is looking at remember this is a calculated column in the work orders table, so we've got to go and get the related risk zone here, following through the relationship we've got between the severity, the post severity likelihood number in the work order and in the risk zone table. So let me just show you that. In fact, I've got this here just to save us flicking back and forth. So if the severity likelihood number for the current record is 55, then it's going to go and find this risk zone here, which that belongs to, which is critical risk. And it's going to then return that critical risk SVG as part of this string here. Okay. Now, I think what I've done here is I just got to make sure these colors match up with the colors that are in our matrix. So I'll just go and do that just now. Okay, so they're all matching up fine, and I think that is it. So I'm just going to do, in fact, one final thing. We need to make sure that this data category here is an image URL. Okay, so that indicates to Power BI that we're not going to return the text, we're going to return the SVG that's represented in the text. Okay, so image URL. Okay, so here it is here, and let's pull this into this matrix, and we'll just make it the first one. Okay, and here we've got this SVG here that's shown as the different areas, and we can see that it's tying in with these. I'll just get rid of this for just now. It's tying in with the same color here. We don't really need this indicator just now. Okay, now the other thing I've done is I've just made the actual the actual name of this equal to just a hyphen. Okay, you could put risk matrix or whatever here, but I just think it's kind of obvious what it is, so we don't need that. Now that's the first one, so it looks pretty smart, and it just helps you A, see the color that it belongs to, but also B, you can actually start to see the actual zone within the risk matrix that it belongs to. Now it's pretty straightforward here when you've got you've kind of got this matrix here, so you can kind of see it, but where it really comes into its own is if you've got a list of work orders. So for example, you've got a list of work orders here. Now you don't necessarily see the matrix in the same place as that list, and it might be a drill through, or it might be another report that you're wanting to display work orders on that isn't next to the risk matrix, but you still want to see where it sits in the risk matrix, or get a general idea of where it sits. So let's just go and we'll pull it into this one here. Okay, so here we can see, now it does tell you here, and the 55, obviously you would recognize that, but some of the other ones you might not instantly recognize where they actually sit within this risk matrix here, because that it's not obvious, it's not always obvious where they are, if you're just looking at it without the context of the matrix to look at alongside the number there. So that's going to help you there. So the next part we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of a formatting on one of the squares within this risk matrix, really subtle, to indicate not only the zone but also the specific box that this particular record belongs to. Okay, so I've created another calculated column. This time I've called it with square. Okay, so it's pretty much the same as the other one, with a few additional parameters that are going to be used to determine which of these squares is going to be highlighted. So the first thing we've got that's additional is that we've got this new column here called risk sort. Now we've called it the priority here when it's embedded in each one of these, and it's a means of identifying each of the individual squares that are in the risk matrix. Now we could use this coordinates here like 5, 5 or 4, 5 or whatever. However, I've added an additional one because I want to be able to sort this. Now if you go into the list here and you sort by this post mitigation risk, then what it's done is it sorts it fine, okay, but as a number. Now each of these numbers don't necessarily represent the risk from high to low. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So these are fine, these ones here, and unfortunately I haven't actually got any in this category here, but this 45 and then 35 would not be the next sequential number here. Okay, this 51 is. Okay, so 51 is here. So if we scroll down, we can see that the different colors come and go and they're not in order. Okay. Now, what I've done is I've gone and added in this risk sort, and basically I've allocated a number here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to be able to first of all identify a specific box, and secondly, if we actually go and then sort by this number here, then we've got a nice sequential list that is in order of the highest to the lowest in terms of these. We can call them priorities or a sort priority, but in terms of these, how would like these to be displayed, these severity likelihood numbers. So let's just go in and I'm going to go to this one here, which is the post mitigation likelihood severity. and we're going to go to sort by, and in here we're going to sort by this risk sort. Okay, so that's the column that I've used. And all I've done to get that is a mapping between each one of these numbers here and the corresponding square in the risk matrix. And that's done as a transformation in the as we load it up into the actual to Power Query Builder. So you'll have this file to download and you can see that code there. Okay, now if I sort this from high to low, we can see that it's sorted nicely by not this number here, but by the risk sort here. Okay, here it is along the side here, 17, 18, etc., etc. Right, so, and we're going to use this risk sort number in the risk matrix in the SVG calculation. So if I just open that back up again, and here it is here. Okay, so then we're going to go, and the other thing is this black color here. Now I could have changed it to anything. It was black, but I've actually made it a slightly grey black. That's going to be the color we're going to use to highlight the specific box in the risk matrix. And then we've just got this if statement here. That's an additional if statement to determine which color this coordinates are going to be. Okay, so each one of these, remember, is the coordinates for one of the squares in the risk matrix. And then in here, if the priority here is equal to 11, then the color is going to be black, otherwise it's a default color. Okay, so basically it's just doing a check to see if this priority here is the one that's in the current record, and if it is, it's going to highlight that black, otherwise it's going to be the default record there. And that's going to be the same for each one of these different variables here that determines the specific SVG that's going to be returned. So hopefully that makes sense, and we'll go back in here and we can see that here it is here. It's highlighting the little square. Now it is very, very subtle. So one of the other things you can do if you want to change the size of this image here is you can go in and just open this up under the format, and we've got this image size here. Okay, now I've got it set at 18, so let's stick up to 25 just so you can see it a little bit easier. Okay, you can clearly see as we go down that each one of these, you can see at the very top here. So here's this one here represents this one, and then this one here is coming down, and this one here is the third one, and each one of these we can see is moving around as we move through the different severity and likelihood numbers. And again, if we go back into the list, so we can see I've got it added in here, and we can see that in a list it is a lot more helpful because you can actually subtly see, right, okay, where's this sitting within the risk matrix here? Now you probably could play with the colours and make them slightly a bit of a bigger contrast, but I think you get the idea here, and this is a case of changing the variables in that calculated column to see the different colours. Okay, so hopefully let's give you an extra dimension that you can add into your reports and your lists if you're using a risk matrix. And if you liked the video, then it's always much appreciated if you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to keep up to date with the latest videos, then hit the subscribe button and you'll get a notification whenever I publish a new video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.